right. Well, you guys, welcome back. If you are new here, we are the Habit team. The Habit is a nutrition coaching company made for women by women. Our program is built for you with coaches who put your goals, lifestyle, and personality first. If you want to learn more about us, head to the episode notes or go to thehabit.com. That's habit with a Y to either request more information or book your free discovery call. All right. Welcome back. You got just Coach Zan here today. The reason why I wanted to jump on, I want to do a short and sweet little episode, and I want to start bringing more psychological tools to our audience. For those who may not know, my background is psychology, and I actually specialized working with eating disorders for my graduate program. And through that education, it really, really opened my eyes to weight loss in general. And you often equate weight loss to nutrition and exercise. But as I was learning about the brain and everything related to disordered eating, I began to realize it is much more mental and emotional than anyone gives it credit to. So while I'm in grad school, and this is like almost a decade ago, I really started spinning my wheels in terms of, okay, how do I bridge the gap in this industry? We always just seek nutrition and exercise help, but we need tools to help us throughout our weight loss journey as well. Basic, simple emotional regulation tools. Because as you develop certain behaviors and relationship with food, these are now being conditioned into you from even as early as when you are a toddler, growing up in your environment, hearing how people around you talk about their bodies, food, etc. So that has been ingrained in you for decades. And you cannot expect just eating healthier and exercising is going to change that all. You basically have to recondition your mind, rewire your mind into developing a different relationship with food. Ultimately, what you want to do is not allow food to be, you know, or to control you as much as it does. But you also have to give yourself grace. Decades and decades, years and years, you have turned to food maybe for, coping with a really negative emotion, and now your brain equates, okay, when I'm sad, I'm going to reach for X, Y, and Z. When I'm stressed, I know what's going to soothe me. But unfortunately, that's really just a band-aid over the issue. And what we really want to do with some of these psychology tools is to begin to work from the inside out. The inside out approach is ultimately what I wanted to bring to the habit and why the habit, flourished into everything it is today. So while in my graduate program, I myself am going through my own weight loss journey. Post undergrad, I was about 45 to 50 pounds heavier than when I first started college. And then during my studies in my graduate program, that's when I really just had my big aha moment. Like, wow, if I had these tools years ago, I would have been so much further in my journey than I am now. But that's not to say that I'm not thankful for everything I learned, because now, I can push it into the habit and introduce it, all these different concepts to my clients and give them the help that I may not have had over a decade ago. And so, whether you're working with me at The Habit or any of my other fabulous coaches, these are tools that we teach all of our clients. And it's just because of my background that I really started implementing it into basically our client curriculum. And yes, we're here to support you, hold you accountable, and give you education, but we also need to provide you with tools to be able to do this on your own. We're not there physically with you. And so we can hand you these tools, we can teach you how to implement them, but then it is really up to you to really put in the practice. Because the first thing I'm going to say, and it should be kind of a reality check to all, is we're going to give you these tools, but it doesn't mean things are going to change immediately. It's going to take time, practice, and repetition. Think about any skill that you've developed. You had to actually put in the work to where eventually it does become habitual. But without the repetition, without you screwing up, it is going to take time. And when I say screw up, I mean, if you're someone who suffers from binge eating or overindulging on certain foods just because, you're you've taught your brain to utilize them as a coping mechanism, it's going to take time. And you will absolutely, quote unquote, mess up. But I don't even want to say mess up, because every challenge, every situation is an opportunity to not only learn more about yourself and build awareness, but to basically put together an action plan for the next time this comes up, because you will have another binge. You will overindulge on some of those foods that you might not quite feel like you have control over. And so that is where these are just tools for you to be able to pull out of your toolbox in the moment to help you. So, with all of that being said, one of the biggest, tools I have been implementing with some of my clients, and I've been seeing amazing results and progress with it, which is why I want to bring it to you today. So I want to introduce to you what the 90-second rule is. So overall, when a person has a reaction to something in their environment, the chemical process that causes the emotional response only lasts 90 seconds. So I need to emphasize that. An emotion only lasts 90 seconds. So you're probably sitting here being like, well, no fucking way, because when I feel stressed or I'm sad, I feel it all day, or I feel it for hours. And it was so hard to implement my willpower that, yeah, I eventually gave in and I coped with food. But that's not true. The chemical surge, it only lasts 90 seconds. So when something triggers you emotionally, and think negative emotions, anger, fear, frustration, stress, boredom, all of that, your brain releases chemicals that surge through your body. Now, these chemicals, such as adrenaline and cortisol, which are our stress hormone, and even though your emotion may not be stress, you still have to recognize our body sees negative emotions and it immediately goes into a stress response. And so adrenaline and cortisol get released. And this is what causes the physical sensations of the emotion. So think physiological responses, and we all respond differently. So when you're stressed or you're dealing with a negative emotion, you could have increased heart rate, you could have tightness in your chest, you could all of a sudden feel warmer, you could be sweating, you could be fidgeting, clenching your fist, whatever it might be. We all respond in different ways, but that is the physiological reaction to whatever emotion you are experiencing. But after the 90 seconds, if you don't re-trigger the emotion with your thoughts, those physiological responses will naturally subside. So why does this matter? It matters because I'm here to tell you, you in fact do have the power and the control at the end of the day. Now, you don't have the control over whether the emotions surface or not. Something's going to trigger you, and you can't control your environment in that sense. But what you can control is learning how to respond to this trigger and then the emotion that surges, rather than react. And that's the biggest difference. There is a difference between responding and reacting. So if you continue to feel the emotion beyond 90 seconds, it's usually because you're mentally replaying the story or you're continuing to focus on the trigger. This gives you the opportunity to interrupt the loop. So acknowledging the feeling, letting it move through you, and choosing how you respond to it once your emotions have regulated. That is where your power comes in. So you can't control the trigger, you can't control your environment, you can't control these emotions from surfacing. But what you can control are your thoughts, and making sure you don't refeed into the loop to where it lasts hours and hours and the rest of your day. So think about that, you guys. 90 seconds. If we learned as humans to sit with the uncomfortable feeling of these negative emotions for 90 seconds, do you know how better equipped we would be when it comes to coping mechanisms, aka eating food when you're feeling these emotions? And that's why we do it. It is not human nature to want to sit in this uncomfortable feeling. We don't like feeling uncomfortable. We don't like change. And so what we do is, again, try to put a Band-Aid on it. These emotions surge. You start to feel the physiological response, and our immediate response is to reach for something that's going to cope. But coping is just basically ignoring what's actually happening. Now, if we learn to sit with it and let it pass in 90 seconds, you won't even begin to think about eating because it's come and gone in 90 seconds. So, how this is applicable to, a weight loss journey and how it can be such a powerful emotional regulation tool. So think, step one is recognizing the trigger. So you have a moment of emotional discomfort. And some examples could be you step on the scale and it's up from the day before. You eat something quote unquote off plan, or you feel judged, bloated, discouraged, or you feel out of control. Okay. That's step one. That's the trigger. And when you start to feel the emotions rise, you are recognizing what triggered you in the first place. Building that awareness is super, super important because everyone gets triggered due to different things. And so you need to learn you and your individual mind and body. Now, step two is pausing and feeling it, aka writing out the 90 seconds. So instead of reacting, and reacting could be binging, quitting, like tossing in the towel, being like, I'm going to start over on Monday, spiraling into thoughts of shame and guilt, you're going to pause for 90 seconds and you're going to do some deep breathing. You're going to feel the emotion in your body, aka your physiological response. So what's happening? Is your chest tightening? Are you feeling hotter? Are you feeling tense? Are you clenching your jaw, your fist, whatever it is? But I want you to actually say it out loud. So first, again, you get triggered. You realize, okay, you're in emotional discomfort. Then what I want you to do is set a timer on your phone for 90 seconds because the next step is to talk out loud. When you talk out loud, you are not allowing your brain, your thoughts to veer off course. Because when you're doing this in your mind and you're not actually speaking it into the universe, so to speak, then your brain has very, very sneaky loopholes and it's going to redirect you back into that loop. So by talking out loud, you're not allowing your brain to do that. So you're going to set your phone for 90 seconds. You're going to acknowledge what triggered you, and then you're going to say out loud what you're feeling in your body as you scan your body, what physiological responses are happening. Then you're going to come up with a mantra, and I can give you a couple of examples, but you want something, a positive affirmation to say out loud in this moment. So an example could be reminding yourself, this is just a chemical surge. It will pass in 90 seconds unless I feed it with my thoughts. Say that over and over and over again until that timer on your phone goes off. So step number 3. As you're waiting out these 90 seconds, you're not feeding into that thought loop. You don't want to spiral into, I always fail, this ruined everything, why even bother? The key, emotions naturally pass if you do not re-trigger them with rumination. So by saying a positive affirmation, a mantra out loud during these 90 seconds, your brain will not veer off course and start going into those thoughts of, I'm always a failure. This is never going to work. Why do I even bother? I'm just going to start over on Monday because I already messed up. So then you're going to think about when the phone goes off, how are you feeling in that moment? Sometimes it could work the first 90 seconds, but if you are someone who's ingrained these behaviors for decades, you might have to reset your timer right then and there and do it again, and do it as many times as you need to until you realize the emotions have passed. And the biggest reminder is how your body is feeling physiologically. Are you feeling relaxed? Are you breathing normally? Your breathing has slowed. It's not rapid anymore. So perfect example is I introduced this to one of my clients. And she works in a corporate job, corporate world. She freaking hates her boss. Her boss is a monster. And her boss really triggered her one day. And she was just fuming at her desk and on the verge of reaching for something at the snack bar, whatever it might be. I happened to introduce this tool to her right then and there. And at work, she literally invited her coworker to do this with her as well. They set a timer. They went through all of these steps. She texted me after and she goes, holy shit, I feel so relaxed and I don't actually want to murder my boss anymore. And so it worked for her on the very first try. So Just a reminder, it may work, it may not. Do it several times because that is where the practice and the repetition comes into play. You're reconditioning your brain, rewiring it. And unfortunately, it's not always just going to happen in 90 seconds. But this is your tool now to use in those moments so you don't turn to food. So I want to throw out some real life examples just so, one, you feel validated because this happens to everyone. And it's so applicable to the weight loss world. So let's say example number 1, you overate at dinner. Your old reaction would be, I blew it, I already messed up, might as well keep eating for the rest of the night and for even the rest of the week and start over on Monday. However, your new approach is going to be to pause, to breathe, feel the discomfort, let the 90 seconds pass, and then say, that happened, it doesn't define me, and then reset with compassion. Example 2, let's say the scale went up. So old reaction, I'm doing everything right and I'm still gaining weight. This isn't working. My body's broken. New approach. You're going to pause for 90 seconds before deciding what to believe. This is data, not a verdict. My body fluctuates and I'm playing the long game because I want to see sustainable results. So you see how just quick little change can give you a whole new perspective on what's actually happening. Because in the grand scheme of things, if you overate at one meal for the entire week, that does not mean you blew your entire weight loss journey. It was one moment out of many, many moments throughout the whole week. And the scale went up. If you are one of our clients, we teach you and we ingrain in you that it is so natural for our bodies to fluctuate on a daily basis. And we help normalize that for you. And this is going to help you even further to not have an emotional reaction to the scale number, but rather have a rational reaction and respond to it rather than reacting. So ultimately, why this tool works is because it helps build your emotional muscle. Every time you pause instead of react, you're actually rewiring your brain. And it ultimately reduces guilt-driven behavior, like all or nothing thinking or emotional eating in general. One of the biggest things I like to work on with my clients is getting out of that all or nothing thinking and really finding the gray zone because it's all about consistency. And like I said at the very beginning, you're gonna mess up. You're gonna overindulge. You're gonna binge. You're gonna have these moments because they've been ingrained for decades. So you have to remind yourself it's a process and you gotta put in the work in order to rewire your brain. And then at the end of the day, this is going to help you respond instead of react, which leads to more consistency and self-compassion, as I was just saying. And that is going to help with long-term sustainable results. So just as a quick little reminder to wrap this up is another mantra you could implement is this emotion is valid, but it's temporary. I don't have to act on it. I can choose my next move after this wave passes. And so again, due to my education and the things that I work on with my clients, I want to bring some of these tools to our audience because you're not alone in feeling this way. And if one-on-one coaching isn't in your wheelhouse right now, I still want to give you tools for success to be able to do this on your own. And I'm here to remind you, throughout my studies and getting my master's degree, it is absolutely possible to rewire your brain and your relationship with food. And again, this is why the habit was developed because I was so sick of, personal trainers and people telling you, well, if you just ate my meal plan and exercise, you'd be fine. But there's so much more to it. There's so many more emotional layers. And I'm so grateful to have learned that in my graduate program because that is exactly why I built the habit. And it is what it is today because we want to work with you from the inside out and basically allow the habit to be the foundation for the rest of your life. And then the great thing with these tools is you can take them anywhere you go. So I hope this was helpful. I know this was a short and sweet episode, but would love your thoughts, and if anyone out there does try this, I would love to know if it works for you. So let us know on the Habit IG, send us a message, and we're going to be super excited to connect with you. Otherwise,